My name is Maya Vance, and 5 years ago, I believed in loyalty, the kind you earn by showing up early, staying late, and never questioning the hand that signs your paycheck. I was a senior compliance analyst at Vantacor Industries, one of those sleek, silver and glass corporate giants in downtown Chicago that looks like it was designed by people who think ethics are just another line item in a quarterly report. I wore blazers that cost more than my first car, carried a leather portfolio like a badge of honor, and smiled politely when executives called me one of the good ones for keeping my head down and my spreadsheets clean. But that version of me is gone now. What replaced her is someone who knows better, someone who learned the hard way that loyalty without integrity is just complicity in a nicer suit. It started on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic thunderstorm Tuesday, or a blood-red sunrise kind of Tuesday, just an ordinary, gray November morning, the kind where the wind slices through your coat like it's got a personal grudge. I'd been digging through internal audit logs for weeks, chasing a discrepancy, so small most people would have chalked it up to a typo. A $28,000 vendor payment to a shell company called Helios Strategic Solutions. Nothing alarming on its face, Vantacor had hundreds of third-party vendors. But Helios didn't show up in procurement databases. No contracts, no W-9s, no digital footprint beyond a P.O. box in Delaware. And the payment had been approved by Marcus Rourke himself, Vantacor's COO, the man who once patted me on the shoulder and said, "You've got a future here, Maya." I flagged it, sent it up the chain. Standard protocol. What came back wasn't a thank you. It was silence. Then, 2 days later, a quiet meeting with HR. "We appreciate your diligence," they said. "But let's not chase ghosts. This could be disruptive." Disruptive. That word always meant bad for stock prices, and never bad for the truth. I should have walked away. A smarter version of me would have updated her LinkedIn and started interviewing. But I'd spent 7 years climbing Vantacor's ladder. I knew every shortcut in the building, every password reset trick, every executive's coffee order. I'd skipped weddings, birthdays, my sister's baby shower, all for a company that now wanted me to pretend I hadn't seen what I'd seen. So instead of walking, I dug deeper. Late nights turned into all-nighters. I cross-referenced travel logs, expense reports, offshore filings. I found more payments, $120,000 here, $85,000 there, all routed through Helios, all tied to Marcus. Then I found the kicker, a series of wire transfers from a Cayman Islands account into Marcus's personal trust fund. Money that matched, dollar for dollar, the inflated costs of a green energy initiative Vantacor had touted in press releases as a transformative sustainability milestone. Except the solar panels they'd allegedly installed. Half of them never existed. The rest were cheap knockoffs from a defunct supplier in Arizona. They'd overbilled the federal government by $3.2 million and used the surplus to fund Marcus's private vineyard in Napa. I had it all. Emails, bank records, internal memos where Marcus joked about creative accounting, like it was a sport. I printed everything. Made 3 copies. Stashed one in a safety deposit box, one with my lawyer cousin in Ann Arbor, and kept the third in my locked desk drawer, the one the janitorial staff never touched because I always stayed late. I thought I was being careful. I was wrong. They found out, not through a hack or a leak, through betrayal. My own assistant, Lena, a sweet 23-year-old with student loans and a dream of being promoted to junior analyst, had been reporting my movements to Marcus's office. She thought she was doing the right thing, protecting the company. She didn't know Marcus had already promised her a bonus if she kept an eye on Maya's odd behavior. I only learned the truth when I saw her crying in the bathroom, whispering into her phone. "She printed everything, Mr. Rourke." I saw the files. That night, my keycard stopped working. My email was locked. By morning, I was voluntarily separated due to restructuring. They offered me 6 months severance if I signed a non-disclosure agreement that read like a prison sentence. No interviews, no social media posts, no disparaging remarks. Ever. They even implied my future job prospects would suffer if I didn't comply. I didn't sign. I walked out of Vantacor's glass tower with a cardboard box of my things, my ergonomic keyboard, a framed photo of my mom, the stress ball shaped like a globe that someone had given me as a joke, and the cold realization that I'd just been erased. No exit interview. No handshake. Just a security guard escorting me to the lobby like I was a shoplifter. For 2 weeks, I drowned in fear. Every email that pinged, every unknown number that called, I flinched. I knew Marcus had connections. Friends in law enforcement, board members with private investigators on retainer. I expected a lawsuit, a smear campaign, maybe even a break-in. But what I didn't expect was the silence. Vantacor said nothing. No press release about my departure, no rumors on LinkedIn. Just quiet. Too quiet. That's when I realized they weren't worried about me. They thought I was broken. That I'd slink away, humiliated and unemployed, and never dare speak up again. That's when the anger replaced the fear. Not the hot, screaming kind, but the cold, focused kind. The kind that plans. I knew I couldn't go public alone. Vantacor had a PR army, a legal budget bigger than my lifetime earnings, and a reputation for crushing dissenters. If I went to the press, they'd bury me in defamation suits before my story hit page 2. If I went to regulators, it could take years. Years I didn't have, not with rent due and my savings evaporating. I needed leverage. Real leverage. The kind that made even powerful men sweat. I needed the FBI. But you can't just walk into an FBI field office with a USB drive and say, "Here's corporate fraud, go get 'em." They get hundreds of tips a week. Most are noise. Mine had to be a siren. So I got strategic. First, I scrubbed my digital life. New phone. Burner email. I stopped using my credit cards, paid only in cash. I moved apartments, twice, ending up in a quiet neighborhood near the lake where no one knew my name. Then, I rebuilt my evidence. Not just the documents, but the narrative. I mapped the money trail in color-coded timelines. I matched voice memos from company all-hands meetings to specific fraudulent transactions. I even tracked down a former Vantacor contractor, a quiet man named Roy, who'd been pressured to falsify installation certificates for the solar project. He was scared, but when I showed him the Cayman transfers next to photos of Marcus's vineyard opening gala, something in his eyes hardened. He gave me a sworn affidavit. Armed with that, I called the FBI's tip line. Not anonymously. I gave them my name, my number, my whole story, concise, factual, with just enough drama to make them lean in. 2 days later, a woman named Special Agent Denise Cho called back. She sounded tired but sharp, the kind of voice that's heard 1,000 lies and still knows how to find the truth in the cracks. We met at a diner in Logan Square, neutral ground, public enough to be safe, quiet enough to talk. I wore a plain black coat, no jewelry, hair pulled back. She wore a tan trench coat and watched my hands the whole time, like she was checking for tells. I laid it out simply. Vantacor defrauded the U.S. Department of Energy. Their COO, Marcus Rourke, laundered the money through a shell company and used it to fund personal luxury. I have documents, witness statements, and a trail that leads straight to his safe. She didn't flinch, didn't smile, just took notes in a small leather-bound book. "Why come to us?" she asked, stirring her coffee. "Why not the SEC? Or the press?" "Because the SEC moves slow," I said. "And the press can be bought. But you can freeze accounts, seize assets, put cuffs on a man who thinks he's untouchable." She studied me for a long moment. "Then, you realize if this is true, they'll come after you harder than before. They'll call you a disgruntled ex-employee, a liar, maybe worse." "I already lost my job," I said. "What else can they take?" She didn't answer right away, just closed her notebook, stood, and dropped a 20 on the table. "Don't leave town," she said. "And if anyone follows you, call this number." She slid a card across the formica. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've heard nothing official. But I've seen things. Unmarked cars circling Vantacor's building. A new security team at the loading dock. Rumors on industry forums that Vantacor's external auditors are reviewing certain projects. And yesterday, Marcus Rourke didn't show up for the quarterly earnings call. His bio was scrubbed from the company website by noon. I don't know if they've raided his office, if they've frozen his accounts, if Denise Cho even believes me. But for the first time in months, I slept through the night. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Marcus has friends in high places, senators, lobbyists, judges who golf with Vantacor's CEO. He'll fight back with everything he's got. And Vantacor's legal team is already drafting counter-narratives, I'm sure. They'll paint me as unstable, vindictive, a woman scorned by a promotion she didn't deserve. But here's what they don't understand. I'm not doing this for revenge. Not really. Revenge is fire. It burns hot, then turns to ash. What I'm after is justice. The kind that echoes. The kind that makes the next compliance analyst think twice before she files away that suspicious invoice. The kind that reminds corporations they answer to more than just shareholders. I've started keeping a journal again. Not for evidence, just for me. To remember who I was before Vantacor tried to erase me, and who I'm becoming now. Because this story, it's not just about exposing fraud. It's about proving that one person, armed with nothing but truth and stubbornness, can shake a fortress. Tonight, I'll meet Denise again. She texted, got a question about Roy's affidavit, meet at the usual spot, 7 p.m. I'll be there. Same coat, Same resolve. And this time, I'll bring more than just documents. I'll bring the receipts. The real ones. The kind you can't delete, can't bribe away, can't explain with a press release. The kind that make even the most untouchable men look over their shoulders. Because the whistle's been blown. Now it's time for the storm. The diner was quieter this time. Rain tapped against the windows like a code only the desperate could understand. Denise sat in the same booth, but she wasn't alone. A man in a rumpled suit with a receding hairline and tired eyes sat across from her. Special Agent Ruiz, she introduced him. He nodded once, didn't smile, just slid a manila folder across the table toward me. Inside were photos. Marcus Rourke, caught mid-stride outside O'Hare, looking over his shoulder like he'd heard a ghost. Another showed him in a private room at a downtown steakhouse, sliding an envelope to a man I recognized, Vantacor's lead auditor, the one who'd signed off on the fake solar project. There were bank records, too, stamped with official seals, the Cayman account frozen, the Helios shell company under subpoena, and most satisfying of all, a warrant for Marcus's personal devices. He tried to flee, Denise said quietly. Got as far as the private terminal. Customs flagged his name. Turns out he'd booked a one-way to Lisbon. Under his wife's maiden name. I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. Is he in custody? Not yet, Ruiz said. He lawyered up fast. But we've got enough to hold him on obstruction, and the fraud charges are coming. Vantacor's board just ousted him this morning. They're scrambling to distance themselves. I almost laughed. The same board that toasted him with champagne when the Green Initiative launched. The same executives who looked me in the eye and told me to drop it. Denise leaned forward. You did this, Maya. Your evidence held up. Roy's testimony matched the financial trail. And that memo you found, the one where Rourke wrote, "Let's make the numbers sing," that's going to look real bad in front of a jury. I stared at my coffee, steam long gone. What happens now? Now, Denise said, you testify. The word landed like a stone. Testifying meant my name in court records. My face in the news. No more quiet apartments, no more anonymity. Vantacor's lawyers would drag my entire life into the light, my student debt, my dating history, that time I got a parking ticket in 2019. They try to paint me as obsessed, unhinged, out for blood. But I'd already lost the life I had. What was left to protect? I'll do it, I said. The trial lasted 6 weeks. It wasn't glamorous. There were no dramatic courtroom outbursts, no last-minute confessions. Just days of dry testimony, charts, and lawyers arguing over semantics. But every time I took the stand, I spoke clearly. I didn't embellish. I didn't rage. I just told the truth, the same truth I tried to tell Vantacor months before. Only now there was a judge listening, a jury watching, and a world waiting to see if power could finally be held accountable. Marcus didn't look at me once. He sat stiff-backed in a $1,000 suit, jaw clenched, whispering to his attorney like I was a minor inconvenience. But the evidence didn't care about his pride. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty. On all counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy, falsifying federal reports, money laundering. Marcus Rourke was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Vantacor paid a $19 million settlement to the Department of Justice and was barred from federal contracts for 5 years. Their stock plummeted. Their sustainability division was dismantled overnight. And me, I didn't get rich, didn't become famous, but I got something better, peace. A year later, I sit in a sunlit office on the 3rd floor of a low-rise building in Evanston. The sign on the door reads, Vance Integrity Consulting. I help small businesses build real compliance systems. No smoke, no mirrors, just honesty baked into the process. My clients are startups, nonprofits, family-run manufacturers who want to do things right, even when no one's watching. Sometimes, former colleagues reach out. Not to apologize, most still can't admit they looked away, but to ask for help. We heard you're the real deal now, they say. I don't hold it against them. Fear makes people small. But courage makes them grow. Denise Cho still texts me every few months. Saw a piece on clean energy fraud, she'll write. Made me think of you. Last Christmas, she sent a card with a simple note. Thanks for not staying quiet. I keep it taped to my desk. The truth is, I didn't do this out of revenge. Not really. Revenge is a fire that consumes the one who carries it. What I carried was something quieter, stronger, the refusal to let lies stand unchallenged. The belief that doing the right thing shouldn't cost you your career or your soul. They tried to bury me with silence, with severance checks and legal threats. But silence only works if you accept it, and I refused. So if you're out there, sitting in a cubicle, staring at a spreadsheet that doesn't add up, Hearing that little voice in your gut say this isn't right, listen to it. Don't wait for someone else to speak up. Don't assume the system will fix itself. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between corruption and consequence is one person brave enough to say enough. A year later, I sit in a sunlit office on the third floor of a low-rise building in Evanston. The sign on the door reads, Vance Integrity Consulting. I help small businesses build real compliance systems. No smoke, no mirrors, just honesty baked into the process. My clients are startups, nonprofits, family-run manufacturers who want to do things right, even when no one's watching. Sometimes, former colleagues reach out. Not to apologize, most still can't admit they looked away, but to ask for help. We heard you're the real deal now, they say. I don't hold it against them. Fear makes people small. But courage makes them grow. Denise Cho still texts me every few months. Saw a piece on clean energy fraud, she'll write. Made me think of you. Last Christmas, she sent a card with a simple note. Thanks for not staying quiet. I keep it taped to my desk. The truth is, I didn't do this out of revenge. Not really. Revenge is a fire that consumes the one who carries it. What I carried was something quieter, stronger, the refusal to let lies stand unchallenged. The belief that doing the right thing shouldn't cost you your career or your soul. They tried to bury me with silence, with severance checks and legal threats. But silence only works if you accept it. And I refused. So if you're out there, sitting in a cubicle, staring at a spreadsheet that doesn't add up, hearing that little voice in your gut say this isn't right, listen to it. Don't wait for someone else to speak up. Don't assume the system will fix itself. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between corruption and consequence is one person brave enough to say enough. And that person could be you. The morning after the sentencing, I walked along the lakefront as the sun broke through the Chicago haze, painting the water in streaks of gold and violet. For the first time in over a year, I didn't check over my shoulder. I didn't flinch at the sound of footsteps behind me. I just walked, slowly, deliberately, breathing in the crisp air like it belonged to me again. A few weeks later, I got a call from a woman named Lena, the same assistant who'd betrayed me, the one who'd whispered my secrets to Marcus. She was crying, not the performative kind, but the raw, gasping sobs of someone who finally saw what she'd helped enable. She'd been fired during Vantacor's house cleaning, blacklisted in the industry, living with her parents in Schaumburg. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just said, I read the trial transcripts. I'm so sorry, Maya. I thought I was protecting my future, but I was helping destroy yours. I didn't offer her a job, didn't promise to vouch for her. But I listened, and at the end I said, do better next time. She whispered, I will. That same month, I accepted a quiet invitation to speak at a university ethics panel. Not as a victim, not as a vigilante, but as a witness. A reminder that integrity isn't a policy, it's a practice. That loyalty should never cost you your conscience. After the talk, a young woman approached me, clutching a notebook. I work in finance, she said, voice trembling. I saw something last week, and I didn't say anything. But after hearing you, I think I will. I smiled. Then you've already won. Now I live simply. My consulting work pays the bills, but the real reward comes in emails like the one I got last Tuesday. Because of your case, our company launched a whistleblower protection program. Thank you for showing us it matters. Marcus Rourke is in a federal prison in Colorado. His vineyard was seized and sold to repay part of the fraud. Vantacor still exists, humbled and under new leadership, quietly trying to rebuild what arrogance nearly destroyed. And me, I'm whole again. Not the same as before, no, but better, sharper, kinder to myself. I go to yoga on Sundays. I adopted a rescue dog named Juno who barks at delivery trucks and sleeps curled against my legs at night. I cook meals that don't come from a microwave. I laugh loudly without checking who's listening. The system didn't save me. I saved myself, and in doing so, maybe help save a few others too. Because the truth is, revenge never heals. But justice plants seeds. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you live long enough to sit in the shade of the trees it grows.